Good morning, everybody. This is your favorite aspiring revolutionary here, reminding you that we are all the authors of our own lives. As always, my message remains the same. Wash your hands, drink plenty of vitamin C, and try not to get sick. Now, spend less, live more, earn your freedom with frugality. I am feeling a little better today. As you can tell, my eyes are not quite as red as they were yesterday, but I trusted a fart that I shouldn't have trusted earlier, so we're definitely not still 100% better. As a result, I have decided to change up our topics, at least for the next day, or today, possibly tomorrow. We're going to talk about the plague, the Antonine Plague, which lasted from 165 to 180 AD. This here is during like the early Roman imperial period, kind of at the tail end of the Pax Romana, which was like the Roman Golden Age, right? It's also been called the Plague of Galen, after the Roman or Greek physician Galen, who we've talked about before. He kind of came up with the three spirits, Zoticon, Psychicon, forget what the other one was off the top of my head. Now, the Antonine Plague was the first known pandemic to impact the Roman Empire. However, there were plenty of epidemics that affected the Roman Empire before this time. Supposedly, it was contracted and spread by soldiers who were campaigning in the Near East. They were attacking this place called Seleucia, and at the time they felt like it was they violated like the gods, and they were being punished because of how they behaved themselves while on campaign. Modern scholars believe that it was smallpox that affected them, but measles has also been suggested. This plague very likely claimed the Roman Emperor Lucius Verus's life, who was a co-regent with the Stoic philosopher King Marcus Aurelius. And during the plague, it claimed about a 25% fatality rate, which is like in line with what you should expect to see from smallpox without modern medicine. So that means that roughly a quarter of everybody who got sick died. Estimates range from literally 3% of the Roman Empire dying up to 33% of the entire empire's population dying. Most modern estimates say that about 5 to 10 million people died overall, which is about 10% of the population, which is really pretty significant. That's quite a few people to die, especially in like a 15-year time span. This was at the peak of the Roman Empire, and during this time, the Roman Empire encompassed roughly 25% of all mankind. So you're talking about a huge portion of everybody dying everywhere, right? Now, the Roman Empire was particularly vulnerable because 20% of its people lived in one of 100 cities, with Rome being the largest. And then, like, the people that were Roman, according to historian Kyle Harper, they were susceptible. We can see that they weren't healthy. So this historian says, like, the average Roman was actually shorter than the people that were around prior to Rome. So sometimes social progress doesn't mean individual progress. Romans believed that the plague was an affliction wrought on them due to violation of the temple in Seleucia. And then the Roman historian Cassius Dio reported that up to 2,000 people a day were dying in the Eternal City, Rome, at its peak. Now, some historians use the Plague of Antonine to mark the beginning of Rome's downfall. It is at the end of the Pax Romana, and after this plague occurs, just in general, things are going to get worse and worse for the Roman Empire over time. Bartold George Niebuhr, which is a 19th century, so like 1800s historian, espouses like the classic view. Here's a quote from him. As the reign of Marcus Aurelius forms a turning point in so many things, I have no doubt this crisis was brought about by that plague. The ancient world never recovered from the blow inflicted by the plague. So, for a long time, people have seen this plague as marking like a serious turning point, along with the reign of Marcus Aurelius in the empire. The ancient chroniclers reported that the Roman army was reduced almost to extinction. It occurred during what was known as the Marco-Manic Wars. So the Marco-Manic Wars were a series of battles fought against Germanic tribes who invaded across the Danube in what is now the Czech Republic. Now, because of the manpower shortages, the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius would be forced to recruit among gladiators, slaves, and bandits. And we can see remnants, or people, Roman historian Eutropius and Ammianus Marcellinus, they talk about it. The switching from the inclusion of barbarians, gladiators, and stuff into the army is one of the factors that a lot of people have claimed led to Rome's downfall. We've kind of talked about it before, that whenever you've got a whole bunch of people who don't really have a vested interest in your empire fighting for your empire, they're not always going to be on your side. It is Thursday, and we are still at the Neshoba County Fair. Yesterday, I've spent about 40 hours consecutively sleeping. Today's like the first day that I'm starting to be awake. There's supposed to be a dairy cattle show at 9 a.m. and then there's going to be some political speakers from 9 a.m. to 10:30. I'm probably not going to go to any of that, but it is happening. Some really famous politicians have spoken here, including Ronald Reagan. The Neshoba County Central High School Band is going to be playing at 1, and then there's going to be some harness and horse racing at 2. And then tonight, the main band is Scotty McCreary, who plays at 8. And then here's our Neshoba County Fair factoid of the day. So as far as lighting goes, originally the lights that were used here consisted of pine knot torch lights atop 19-foot poles, which were fit with a shelf that had a red clay covering to prevent the wood from burning. These would be used until they were replaced with dynamos, and then those would be replaced with electric lights whenever electricity made it to the area in 1938. So that's really pretty much all I have for you guys today. If I'm still feeling sick tomorrow, we're going to talk about the Plague of Justinian, which is another Roman-era plague, about 300 years later in the future. The Plague of Justinian is actually it's the same thing as the Black Death. It's just earlier in history. It's the bubonic plague. It just affected the Romans earlier. But yeah, so once I'm feeling better and I can actually walk around and stuff pretty easily, we're gonna go back to Stoicism, and then speaking truth to power in my usual production schedule. I had hoped to get another blog post done this week, but to be honest, just doing what I'm doing right now is taking all the energy I have. So, as always, my message remains the same. Spend less, live more, earn your freedom with legality. This is your favorite aspiring revolutionary here, a wandering author, reminding you that we are all the authors of our own lives. What are you guys doing to inspire, uplift, and empower your community today? Because this world isn't changing unless we all do our part, and you can count on me to do mine daily. Until next time, I love y'all.